Folks, and welcome back to part two of the Business Eye here at Dublin South FM. I've been pondering my mind, bashing it off a wall, trying to understand the why we do everything. Why we got into business, why we get up in the morning, what is our why? And a part of that why as well is how we generate business, how we communicate with people, and how we generate leads, and what is marketing, and what can we do to be more influential to people. So I've asked someone who I've been speaking to for a couple of years on and off. Trying to catch them has been very hard because they're awful so busy, and they are now also the top dog in the PSA in Ireland as well. Denise Fay, how are you?
Hello, Joe. How's it going?
How's it going, indeed? As I'm talking to you here, my dog is gnawing on my arm. Denise, I asked you on because you are, I would say, very successful when it comes to promoting yourself and helping other people promote themselves as well. And the big question that we always ask: what is marketing? So, what is marketing to you?
I think you flatter me, but thanks very much. Marketing to me really is simply how we can attract the right customers to our business and then make a profit. And if you think about marketing as that, you have a product, and actually I suppose there's satisfying a need in there as well. So you have a product and you have a product, a customer needs your product, you solve that problem for that person and you make a profit. So marketing is really at the heart of every business. It's not just the promotions and it's the communications. It's actually at the heart of every business.
But everybody has a product, and everyone, wants to reach out and get those people and get those clients coming in. But a lot of people are doing a lot of marketing, but they're not getting anywhere. Like, is there marketing and then failed marketing, or is it just, it's simple, but it's not easy? Consistency.
Okay, I think it's yes to all of those, to be honest, right? So I think there's been, particularly of late, now I'm going to age myself, Joe, right? And because I'm always kind of known as a traditional marketer. So I've been marketing since 1997. So well over 20 years. And I suppose we would have actually started marketing and doing different marketing in terms of marketing communications, right? Because there is a difference. So let me just be very clear. There's a difference, say, between marketing in terms of the strategy, and then there's marketing communications. So the two of them work together, live together, but they're very different. And so people will confuse the two of them. So if you're not clear on what the person that you want to serve, the product, the features and benefits of your product, well, then the marketing and the communication side of things, Joe, will never really be as successful as you want. And so a lot of people will confuse marketing, like real marketing, with advertising. You need to get out there and advertise. But what I've seen more and more again, is that somebody's messaging isn't correct. The messaging as in not necessarily your strategy, Joe, but what is it that you want to say? What do you want to be known for? How do you stand out? How are you different? And then that's the message that you go out to your ideal customers. And I'll always say to my clients, and if you listen or read anything that I say, there's importance that you attract the right people, but you also repel the wrong people. So a lot of people tend to attract everybody, and they kind of do this whole hope marketing communication section or piece. And they hope that they get the wrong person, but generally they get talking and working with the wrong people. And that's where it leads to frustration. That's where it leads to you don't get the results that you want. And then you go, oh, this marketing stuff, I've tried it, but it doesn't work. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, because, for me, there's advertising and then there's marketing. And I think for small business and entrepreneurs, marketing should be just focused on lead generation. It's putting that time and money into lead generation.
But even still, you're talking about that, and I kind of cut you off there, sorry, but that's kind of prospecting. So that's a part of sales. It's not necessarily part of marketing.
Well, that's where I would disagree. I believe that marketing is prospecting, because what you're doing is that it's raising awareness, it's making people trust you, it's getting people to understand what you are. And then that marketing is building up. So when you do actually have that conversation with someone, they know a little bit about you already. So that's where, from a small business point of view, I think it's crucial. And one of the things that I see a lot of as well, Denise, is that a lot of people advertise, and they're trying to advertise like Coca-Cola or Nike, but those companies have a massive amount of money and have probably spent 2 million on a product advertising it before they even got it out there,
Absolutely.
And so, we talk about branding and we talk about, marketing and advertising. But in fact, that if someone in, a small business, 10 employees or whatever, they need to be doing something to get the people in the door so they can pay the staff.
Absolutely. And it's funny because I do 100% agree with you, in terms of lead generation is part of marketing, but that's where I suppose semantics comes into it. And people are confused, I think, actually, as to what they should be doing. And you're right, people should be focused on getting leads into leads into their business. But I'll go one step further on that one and say that once they get those people into their business, then they put a ring fence around them and they actually keep them. So I do believe that marketing is definitely all about attracting and keeping customers.
Yeah, because once you get them in, it's about having them part of a community, connecting with them on a regular basis.
100%.
Then it's coming into, a customer experience.
Yeah, and they almost become part of you almost like your secret sales force. And so a lot of times, small businesses, and just using that example that you had, like say 10 people, even 5 people, even solopreneurs, whatever, smaller businesses or small businesses, if they focused on attracting customers and then engaging with them, that they have the ones that they have, then their customers could become their secret sales force.
Denise, you mentioned, driving force and getting people into the business. And, the one thing that I'm going to ask you is wording, communication. How wrong do people, you look at businesses all the time, how wrong do entrepreneurs, business owners get their wording so wrong?
Right. Okay. Well, that's a question. I would say, to be honest, a lot of times, and if I'm really honest about that, and it's a skill that's actually can be changed, right? Wording can easily be changed. And I'm going to go back to one of the points that you mentioned earlier on, Joe, about the difference, say, between Coca-Cola and like small business advertising. A lot of times we're talking about brand advertising, but what small business owners need to do is be more direct response. So more going out for the call to action. And a lot of times small business owners don't go looking for a call to action. They don't have call us now, ring this number, get our lead generation item, whatever it is, book, sign up form, free consultation, that kind of stuff. So a lot of them, the call to action isn't there, but also the messaging and the wording that they're using is wrong. So what I do find, and actually what I do find, is that a lot of people will look to see what other people in their field are doing. So let's just use, say, accountants. If you start up an accounting practice, you look at other accounting practices and you think, well, they must be doing it right. I'm going to see
all hitting towards the bottom because they're all feeding, and then one will see the other and copy them, but even though that person has copied off them and rechanged it, that it's all dropping to the bottom on it. Yeah, good point.
And so that's one thing. But then actually, do you know what? I was just talking to a client yesterday because I have open office hours and my Achievers Club. And one of the members said to me, they're looking to do a webinar and this is the title of it. And I just said it was about something about midlife. And I just turned around and I said, but do your clients come to you looking for, saying, I'm actually in midlife and I want more? And they kind of said, well, no. And I was like, well, why would you put that into your messaging, or why would you put that into your wording? So a lot of times as business owners, as owner of the business, of the service or product, we think we know what we're talking about, but that doesn't mean to say that the customer that's reading it or looking at it, they're using those same words. So really need to kind of step into the shoes. And you're probably seeing my, like, you know, I put up every now and again my lovely red hot pink manolas and say you really need to step into the shoes of your customer to, like, you know, identify the words that they use. So a lot of times people don't, and that's definitely a clear mistake, Joe, that people make all the time.
Yeah, it's you know, you create that brand and you create that look, and you know what? Like I have a photograph that it goes across right across, and I look at that photograph, that brand, I fucking hate it. But that's just my ego going, I hate that photograph. But everyone will see it and see it as me, and they don't really judge it. But I don't mind. What I'm getting at is because I see it repetition all the time. It's like, you know, if I was to wear a orange coat all the time, I swear people would hate orange coats.
I think orange would actually look really good on you,
Lovely,
Joe.
yes. Well, my hair used to be carrot color top as well, so maybe that was the clash. But my mum always said yellow looked good on me. Yellow looked good on me. But the other reason as well, which I think that if people are delivering something and they're trying to market it or sell their business or sell their service, it has to resonate with them for what they're doing. They can't just say the words. It needs to be passionately driven, hidden, built, designed within them so they can actually express that and people resonate with that. And that comes to why. What is a person's why they're doing it? What's your why?
My why, gosh, that's a big one. But my why, I think, is I see a lot of business owners who can make a difference, you know, in whatever product that they have or service that they do. And I suppose my why for them is to actually just help them become famous or more well known in their field. So that's my why. Like, I really want people to actually go out there and just become more well known, because then it's more of a ripple effect, Joe, like, you know, because that way then, so say I'm helping you as a small business owner, you go and you impact the world that way. And that makes me happy. Like, if you were to ask me what my values or my drivers are, like, I love connecting with people. I love caring for people. So I'll only really work with people who I actually have that, to use your words, like that resonation or that connection with, because I think that's so important, because it lifts us all up. And it's one of those things that I think it's almost as if you were in our open office yesterday, because I did say to the members when I was talking, I said, one of the things that people, you can't put a price on, and I actually haven't found the way to articulate it just yet, but it's the energy that you bring to, like, you know, a project, the energy that you put out there. So if you're saying words like, say, I'm just going back to an accountant, not bashing accountants, don't get me wrong, but if you're using, say, here, I've got 5 ways to stop your cash flow, or cash flow is the lifeblood of your business, that doesn't bring anything, you know, to the equation. Whereas if you kind of say, listen, business owners, I can tell you, here's 4 ways to stop cash flow from, like, leaking through your business. And it's not force, it's something that comes from within. So how do you bottle it? I'm not sure, but, like, it's one of the things that I'll always talk about. It's like,
It's a vibrational output that you have. It's you know, there's a difference between, you know, I use the example, there's 2 guys on a street in New York and both are selling hot dogs, and one guy is selling them and he's making a fortune, and the guy across the road isn't doing any. And if you look at both of them, the guy that's selling them has the passion to drive and loves what he's doing. The other guy could be just doing it for the money and is just going through the motions. So it's that vibrational output that, as we are all energetic, we are energy beings, that something subconscious is going on that is actually, people are picking up on that.
Yeah, I believe that now. I do, you know, and if you had said to me maybe 5 years ago, I'd be like, what? That makes no sense. But as I'm kind of studying and looking at a bit more, particularly more in the messaging and how people stand out, because that's what I really love to talk about and help people with. The more and more I see people, and again, I suppose that's what I'm saying, like, in terms of articulation, but it's definitely the energy you bring. And so that's why I'll always say to people, well, what energizes you? And like you, I don't know if you know, like I love to run, and I'm only getting back into running after an injury. And so I could have said, well, I don't really want to get back into running because it's an effort, but I love running. And so if that's what energizes me, and I talk about running on, on air, off air, that's what I need to talk about, because again, that's a
It
vibrational
resonates with
energy,
those
and
people.
and people connect with
Denise,
that. So what energizes you?
let me ask you this then. You talk about standing out, but do you think people need to fake it first? There's this old saying, fake it till you make it. And that's contradicting everything we're saying, that resonating if you're faking something. So, is there a line between standing out and faking it?
Yeah, and it's one that people cross all the time, but I think the right people will spot it, that you are faking it.
I think it's been having the trust, the faith in being authentic yourself.
Yeah.
And even if you lose people, lose friends, lose whatever it may be, but you're not doing any harm to anybody, I think once you're authentic, those people will resonate.
Yeah, and that goes back to like what we talked about at the beginning about attracting the right people and repelling the wrong people. Because a lot of people spend too much time with the wrong people. I know myself, if you look back at like when I started Achieve Marketing back in 2005, I probably would have thought, God, somebody wants to use me for marketing. Yes, even if they were completely wrong. And, there was all that niggle, there's always a voice in your head, isn't there, going, oh, God. And if somebody calls on the phone and you see their name and you go, oh, jeepers, no, that's a sign that you don't want to actually talk to that person, and you shouldn't really be talking to them.
Yeah, please click. What's plastic and goes click. Tell you, give our audience 2 tips. 1, how do they stand out? And 2, what should they be doing to get people in? Two quick tips.
Okay, 2 quick tips to stand out. Acknowledge, like, just be themselves. Say, like, go and actually find out, well, what is their difference? And one of their differences, people say, I don't know what my difference is if you're in a saturated market, but look at even like, your premises, look at how you do your processes, look at, your experiences, look at your hobbies, look at your, what energizes you, what gets you up in the morning. Are you a morning person, a night person? Little things like that are definitely ways that you can make yourself stand out a little bit more. So that's one way to stand out. And the second question that you asked me was, I got too excited about standing out.
About getting people in, getting, people to call to action, raise their hand for that call to action.
Yeah, you know what? I think there's probably 2 things, I suppose, 2 things in that second point. Once you start like standing out and kind of stepping in and owning your difference, I think then people will become attracted to you a little bit more. But what you do need to do is probably send out more, do more content, right? Do more like, content, whatever it is that you do, and pick up the phone. Like, I think we're afraid now, like, to pick up the phone. We all have these magic phones in our hands, but we don't really pick it up to actually have conversations with people. And I think that goes back to the point where you have the resonation. People see the energy that you have for the business, whether you care for somebody or not. So I think more content if possible, but just actually, we need to be very careful about where you put it, right? But then pick up the telephone.
Yeah, and I think that the beauty of it is I love calling people and speaking to them. I do, and it's actually because we've been all in our pods and we're all doing Zoom, that even picking up the phone, believe it or not, breaks that cycle on it. Tell me, sorry.
Zoom, actually, Joe, like even Zoom, I suppose, like you pick up the phone, but like you get to see the person, and you get to see their mannerisms. And if they're going to roll their eyes, then you kind of know that you're not on the right track. But so you get to see that. So like Zoom has made the world an awful lot smaller. Teams, I suppose, as well, for all those kind of Skype-y, online tools. So they have made a difference because you're still communicating, rather than sending an email, sending a text message. So I still like that.
Dynamics. I think there's different dynamics through Zoom. Like we're doing this interview on Zoom. It'll go out on audio as well, but there's different dynamics. So I know I could be speaking to someone for a year, coaching them on Zoom, but if I probably met them for a coffee somewhere, it'd probably be awkward. Because different dynamics, different vibrations with different technology as well. So
true.
Yeah, it's it's like speaking to someone on Facebook and having a chat with them on it, and you'd probably walk past them in Tesco's not recognizing them, you know.
And then you say, gosh, I thought you were going to be taller.
That person
I
there.
thought you would be taller or
They
smaller.
could be taller. Did I walk past them? My God, that's not them. They're 40. Their photograph is 40 years ago. This year, everyone's sort of getting back in. You know, there's been 2 years of trauma, really, and everyone has had a coping mechanism, and everyone wants to get back out. And we can see that things are easing up, and we'll, you know, I predict come the end of March, nothing will have ever existed for the last 2 years, which made me realize 2 years went really quickly, and I'm retiring in probably maybe 12 to 14 years. So I need to hell to leather for that as well. How are, speaking to businesses, how are businesses re-emerging at the moment? Are they all excited? Are people a bit nervous? Is the cash flow there? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, you know, speaking with some business owners, it's mixed. I have to be honest and say, is my experience. Like, you know, people are excited, but they're still, it's a what's that word? It's a cautious optimism, you know, because there's always been the ups and downs, and particularly in the hospitality sector. Like, I've got one or two clients in that area. You know, it's been closed, it's been not closed. So there's that kind of hope, but then actually going, oh gosh, you know, what are we going to do? But I think overall optimism would be the one. And I see a lot of people looking to launch new products, new services this year. In fact, all the members, I think, of the Achievers Club are looking to launch something new. So there is, I suppose, if you look at it that way, there's all hope and excitement. But hope and excitement are great. And again, hope marketing is great, but really you need to be a little bit more strategic about it. So I think if you're going to emerge with hope and optimism, then you need a plan for that too.
I'm taking hope away, and I'm trying to not use it, because I think hope can offer a falseness, and replace with intention. You know,
yes, I do like that.
Yeah, you know, set those intentions and not hope, and drive forward. And my advice would be as well is hustle. You know, and hustle, we can think of what hustle is, and people might think of that it's something negative, but it's not. I've actually just wrote something out on it here. Give me 2 seconds. I was thinking about this before we came on, and it's funny how it comes up, and it's something that's coming up for me, and I call it the HFCIG. And hustle. So hustle is the chase of doing business, the love affair, and why you started your career, helping others, negotiating, selling, decision making, marketing, your why, really driving through the why you started in business. And then the F is faith, and that's knowing what you're doing, why you're doing it, believing in yourself, trust and truth and transparency in everything you do and everything you say. And then the C is for compassion, and that's going easy on yourself, understanding you can't go it alone, being honest, asking for help when you need it, being respectful and honorable to everyone you encounter in your life. And then the I is for internal, flow, not force, following your gut, knowing that you're moving forward. Our attention is always being pulled outside of ourselves for approval, and we shouldn't be. We should be looking in. And the last one, which is G, which is gratitude, and that's the driving force, the bird's eye view for looking over what you have in your life right now and starting from ground zero if you need it to be. And that's where I think the last 2 years for a lot of people have made them kind of sit back. So if people look at that and think about that and go, I need to start from ground zero, let me do it again. What's your thoughts on that?
You know, I love that. You know, I could actually get you to repeat that again and again and again. I loved it, and I love everything about it. You know, all the attributes that you had said about it. And I know I talked about, what would you do? I think that that's content. That's such good content because it's so true to you, Joe, and anybody who knows you, and I'm sure the people listening to you who know you, this is stuff that you wholeheartedly believe, that you stand in it. And I suppose you asked me what my why was. Like, I want obviously people to become more famous so they can make a ripple effect in the world. But it's that you stand in your own power, and actually you just accept you for who you are, and this is you, and not like the great showman kind of stuff, like, but this is you. And so I love that. And if people were to practice that, right from the gratitude to the hustling to the communication to all of that, their life would be much easier, and much more enjoyable. So I love all of that, and I'd love to see you develop that more as a content.
Stop faking it.
Yeah. Like, there's no point, because then you're just fooling yourself, and then if you fool yourself, then you start questioning yourself instead of standing up in your own power and standing in your own difference and just owning your own strengths.
It's like, I know there's been in the past, I used to have to jump in the shower and wash the negativity off me before I did my day's work. Like, I'd wake up feeling anxious and go, oh my God, shaking, internally, and having to have that shower to psych myself up. And I think that was just the uncertainty, that I wasn't willing to acknowledge the uncertainty of being an entrepreneur. And I think once you develop that, be who you are and accept everything what it is and stop trying to fake it and be yourself, you lose all that and you start to then, as you said, gain your power.
Yeah, you really do. I 100% agree with all of that. And I think, and that's the kind of stuff that I'd love to see in people's marketing. That's the stuff that I want to see in people's messaging, because again, to use your words, like, people will resonate with it, people will connect with it, and they'll connect with it on a level, subconsciously, unconsciously. Like, there's a terminology that I'd always use when I talk about, like, say websites or even any kind of marketing, and it's incongruence. And it's sometimes, you're talking to me and you're having the chats with me, then you go look at my website, or you go looking at something else and it's incongruent, and you go, that doesn't make any sense. But so your brain can catch up. You probably know more about this, but your brain can catch up, and you kind of go, there's something not right. And that's where the incongruence comes from, from the person that you are to the words that you write in your marketing. So obviously I'm taking from a marketing perspective, but if you had who you were and you had your difference, you owned your difference and went out with that with your marketing message, I think your business will be in a much stronger position.
Like, in coaching, I say to people, it's reverse engineering. Speak to your clients, speak to people, ask them a list of questions and get it. And don't email them. Because what happens is people write differently the way they speak. And what people do is they'll type something up and then they'll read and go, oh no, that doesn't sound intelligent, and I'll rewrite it. Oh, this makes me more intelligent. Oh no. And they actually start off from point A, but they're at point F, and it's the same message, but it's not them. It's a load of BS.
Yeah.
So speak, that's why, I try and put everything down now as I speak it. And I do need help with my content. I am dyslexic. So the trying to juggle wording and it can be difficult for myself. So, I have other skills and I have people then that I use to help me with that.
Right.
But it's trying to get, and I say to people, put down the way you speak, not the way you write, because the way you write is not you. It's too legalese.
Yeah. And I think actually, particularly like, I work with a lot of service providers, because I 100% agree with you. A lot of service providers would say, gosh, I can't say that because it's dumbing it down. I'd have to be having all this jargon filled text. But the jargon filled text kind of just, unless you're operating in a certain environment where you need to have the jargon, and it's more or less like, say, corporate
GDPR
speak.
or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, it's so true though. And so, it's one of those things where I will always say, like, write as you speak. But again, it kind of goes back to people's, and maybe not necessarily ego. If you work in a certain environment, putting down words as you speak may not go with them, but I'll always say, you're not writing for yourself. You're not buying your own service. It's somebody else that's buying your service.
Yeah, but you have to, like, you can't say everyone else, listen to me, or be, use profanity in your wording, then okay, you may speak that, but you can't write it either. So there's just, say it as it is,
Yeah.
And
there's ways in which, look at, I've been working in words since I had to reinvent myself back in the recession times. So I've been working with words since like 2009, 2010. So there are certain ways in which you can still have the same meaning with the certain words, but avoid the jargon, avoid the specialist text, and still say the same thing and still look professional, and that you don't look like, a complete and utter idiot, because I think some people are afraid of that.
Denise, I'll give you a laugh. When I was building the websites or building land pages, and those call to actions, and it's the one thing that I still kind of will look at, is it, connect with me for a consultation or free call. And then I was having, are we using the right words, and then I was kind of going on, what is free on it. But look, listen, we've run out of time. Denise, where can people reach you?
The best place, I suppose, would be over at achievemarketing.ie. And all the contact details are there. I pretty much hang out at Instagram. That's my happy place on the social media. LinkedIn, all those ones.
We've got a sick little child here today, so she's on that. So if people want to reach out to you as well, I say definitely connect with you on LinkedIn.
Absolutely.
Your content is brilliant. You're always popping up. I love the colors that you have and the branding and everything as well. So unfortunately, we ran out of time. I think we could have continued a lot longer.
Could have talked with you, Joe.
Could have talked all day. That's what we do best. Talk all day. But look, thanks for coming on. I know it was short notice, and it was super having Denise on the show. Really delighted. Lots of knowledge shared. But anyway, guys, look, yous have a super week. Till next week, take care.